So essentially, if you're not doing that in your salat, if you're not burning and melting your soul and overcoming all your ego and whatever desires that you have of worldly desires that are drawing you away from God and from being spiritual, then essentially that's not true salat. A lot of the times, a lot of the sins that are being committed, a lot of the problems that we have in society simply stem from just arrogance, simply stem from the lack of humility, not understanding our purpose in life and what we're doing here. And that, the fact that you're doing that 5 times in the day is a constant reminder as well. So I think that, in that respect, Islam is so unique. And you mentioned like, you don't see that in other faiths. Maybe you'll see them standing in prayer, or they have one element of that prayer. But I think Islam is so beautiful that it incorporates every aspect of that. So within your one single prayer, you incorporate all of that. But it's only if you understand it, because you understand those postures, and then you realize that these postures are not just physical actions, but they actually have a lot of meaning. That you stand in prayer, and then when you're standing and reading Surah Fatiha, which is like you're praising Allah the Almighty, and even in that there's an element, or not an element, there's a huge part of humility as well, because the moment you say Iyyaka na'budu, that thee alone do we worship, straight after that you say Iyyaka nasta'in, that we implore your help. That even to pray, even to worship Allah is not something that we can say, well, I'm going to worship Allah, because we're so insignificant and humble and weak in the presence of God, that even for us to make this claim is such a bold claim to make, that you say that I'm going to pray, I'm going to worship Allah. Can we do justice to worship? Can we do justice to fulfilling the rights of Allah? No, you can never do that. Even when you pray, if you have conviction in your prayer as well, then that has an impact in your life. But if you just do it with the sake of, like, you're not even concentrating, you're just doing like just these movements. Because when we're talking about postures, I think that's important to speak about, right? Postures that you just are going through the motion of prayer, and then you've come out of it, and then you've still not had any impact.
How do you explain that to someone though? Like why are there so many different postures in your form of prayer, whereas like Christians maybe just sit and pray, Hindus have their own method of praying, Jewish people have their own. Why does our ones have such a physical demand?
I think the way the Promised Messiah has explained it, right, that's just amazing, in the way that he says that your physical actions, your body and your soul are so deeply intertwined, right, and they both act and react upon each other, and if you take one away from the other, it's hollow. So if you're just doing the postures, right, you're just praying the physical, it's nothing different from just a physical exercise, right, until your soul is not in it. But if your soul is in it, then someone can actually ask, then if I'm just consciously thinking about prayer, I'm thinking about God, then why do I need to go through the physical postures, right? But then you think when you combine the two, it just harmonizes both and brings out the real impact of it. So for example, like the Promised Messiah has explained that sometimes you induce a laughter within yourself, or you become cheerful, and that has an impact on your body as well. You become cheerful, you start smiling. Yeah. And if you think of something really sad, or you bring grief upon yourself or something like that, you think of something like that, and then it reflects in your actions as well.
Yeah.
So that's because both, they react upon each other. So true salat or namaz or prayer is essentially of the soul, but the postures aid that. It's like almost like a vessel through which we pray. And salat actually means, the very meaning of salat, we were discussing earlier as well, was that it means a burning. Salat comes from the Arabic root word to burn or to melt. So essentially, if you're not doing that in your salat, if you're not burning and melting your soul and overcoming all your ego and whatever desires that you have of worldly desires that are drawing you away from God and from being spiritual, then essentially that's not true salat. Until you don't feel the emotion, which is why those physical postures are so important, because they are an aid. You can think about your soul melting and you wanting to fall at the threshold of God in your head, but there's only so much you can think of it until you actually get on your legs and knees, and your arms and knees, and you put your head down and you actually prostrate and pour your soul out. So I guess even speaking about it now, I guess we're so blessed as Muslims that we have something, such a perfect mode of worship, which is salat. And if we actually were to engage in that, how much it could change our lives and the problems that we face. And I'm sure, even youngsters, I know this particular sort of recording is aimed at the younger audience, but they're going through a lot as well. Nowadays, there's a lot of issues that youngsters are facing, a lot of mental health issues as well and stuff. And I think which is why you think about it, the solution's already there. The Holy Prophet ﷺ said that you should be instilling the habit of salat in children at the age of 7, and then they should be, should be a little bit more strict as they get older, and by the age of 10 or 12, they should be actually observing salat strictly and making sure they're not missing any prayer, because it's almost prepared you and readied you for the next stage of your life that is to come.
Anyone who calls themselves a Muslim must pay great attention to ensuring that they protect and guard their worship, which requires them to be regular and punctual in offering namaz with utmost sincerity. The reason Allah the Almighty has made namaz obligatory is because a person cannot remain spiritually alive without it. In other words, salat is indispensable, and person's faith and spirituality cannot survive without it.